Uh-oh. I wasn't the only one banking this morning. He look cute. He look all innocent, like he worked for a damn rental car company. It looks like a rental car. Like, who else drives that brand new Toyota? That's not a Prius. Yeah, he's an out of towner. I can tell out of towners because they be with the locks and the dreads, like, and the afro, like it's no big thing. On the West Coast, on the west side from the beaches, we don't rock those kind of hairdos. We don't do it like that. Whatever. Okay. So, oh, he's so cute. Look at the little boy in this big ass car. So how do you convince? I want to say convince. Is that convince? No. Yes, you also want to convince. But how do you tell your manic client without telling them they're a manic? How do you tell a manic patient without telling them they're a manic patient? I don't actually recall telling straight up like, hey, you suffer depression. Which is really interesting because from what I recall, I don't think that was ever a thing. We just do our treatment plan and then we do the treatment. And without specifically telling them what their diagnosis is. And but obviously they kind of know, they have an idea. A lot of times many clients will come to you and tell you that, oh, I'm OCD. I hate the word OCD, but okay, I suffer from obsessive compulsive behavior, or I do this, or I do that, or I engage in obsessive behavior, or I have compulsions that I cannot contain, or another one is I have a fear of leaving the house or going places, or I have anxiety, or they just come in with a rumination of worries that they cannot get out of their mind or get rid of. And so it becomes obvious mostly the first session. And a lot of times some of them who may be in a little bit denial or embarrassed or feel like they don't want to own a specific disorder, they may say, oh, well, I was once unofficially diagnosed. Or they will say, yes, I have had a diagnosis before, or 10 years ago, or when I was a kid, a psychologist tried to, or I wouldn't say try to, or a psychologist diagnosed me with bipolar, for example, or I was labeled manic, or I was told that I have manic depression, etc. But apparently what happened is that they rejected that and they never followed through, or they never continued with treatment. So I have a lot of cases like this where someone would come to me and say, yes, just say they're in their 20s now, and they say, oh, like, when I was a teenager, I was diagnosed. And that was like in the story. And I'm thinking like, okay, and then what? Like, what happened after that? So apparently they got pissed off with the person, the doctor who diagnosed them, or probably suggested that, depending if they're a psychiatrist or not, try to prescribe them medication, and they totally rejected that idea. Like, no, there's no way I'm going to take medication. Like, I'm not down with that. So they just stopped going to treatment. They stopped going to therapy. They did not take treatment. They just dealt with it on their own. Dealt with it, meaning the disorders that they were diagnosed with. So, for example, if they were diagnosed with manic depression, or bipolar 1, which includes manic episodes, or OCD, what some people failed to realize that a lot of people do try to treat themselves by engaging in certain substance. I wouldn't want to say abuse, because not everyone abuses. So they may engage in substances like alcohol when they're feeling they're coming on a manic episode. So they'll take something that will bring them down. Someone call them downers. A downer is alcohol. Alcohol is a depressant, so they will drink alcohol. Or if they suffer from bipolar 2, where they may have depressive episodes. While they're depressed, they may take a stimulant, whatever that stimulant may be. It can be, what a stimulant is. I don't want to get into too much details because I know that now YouTube have all these crazy disclaimers and the algorithm, and certain words can trigger it. And I think especially words talking about drugs or sex or violence or religions, anything in that category, right? So you will see that I will try to be really careful with how I label things, and I will be very minimum. I will limit it. So in one video, I'm not gonna blow up a bunch of words that are considered, how I can say, controversial. So what the client would do is they will just do this for years on years, sometimes for decades, their whole life even, until there's a break, until something really bad happens. And depending on what kind of substances they engage in, they may have a horrible addiction, maybe have a close rub with death, like an overdose where they were hospitalized and then they have to eventually be forced into treatment. So sometimes, hopefully it's not one of those deals or those situations where you have to hit rock bottom, but sometimes it's like they're trying to, what they will say in the scientific world, it's oh my god, I can't think of the word, but it's like oh my god, it's right there on the tip of my tongue. It's like they keep trying ways until they get the result they want, right? It's like elimination. I can't think of the word, Jesus. So whatever, I'll get into the more scientific terms later, and actually I'll do a video on it when I get it, when I remember. So, I got it. Trial of elimination. Something like that. It's a trial of elimination. So it's like they keep trying, and that doesn't work. Okay, they eliminate that. So then they'll try another method of surviving this, condition. That doesn't work. So they'll try something else. Like that something else can be another stimulant or activity. Some may engage in activity, especially when they're having a manic episode, shopping sprees and these grandiose ideas. And some may have a gambling addiction where they feel like, I'm gonna hit big, I'm gonna get millions of dollars, and then they're in debt and they're homeless. So yeah, it depends. Once they hit that rock bottom, then that's when hopefully eventually they will start to surrender to this diagnosis and say, okay, I really need help, I'm going to seek help. This is where I get help. So how do you convince them without telling them? Because they are sensitive most times, and it will take it personal that they're being judged. Stay tuned.